At 70 years old, Kevin Costner has seen Hollywood at its best, and at its absolute worst, Tio the world, he's the rugged cowboy from Yellowstone, the heroic lawman from The Untouchables, the romantic bodyguard protecting Whitney Houston. But behind that calm, stoic exterior lies a man who has endured betrayal, heartbreak, and years of Hollywood politics, all while fiercely holding on to one thing: his authenticity. Now, close friends claim that Costner, a man known for his strong sense of loyalty, has made it clear there are 6 people he never wants near his funeral. 6 faces from his past that remind him of pain, disappointment, or dishonor. This is not a list of enemies, it's a list of lessons. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. 1. Madonna, the pop queen who went too far. Their paths crossed in the early 1990s, a time when both were riding the highest waves of fame imaginable. Costner had just come off the successive dances with Wolves and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, while Madonna ruled the world of pop with her Blonde Ambition tour and the controversial documentary Truth or Dare. Costner appeared briefly in that film, a simple cameo that would later turn into one of Hollywood's most talked-about humiliations. In the clip, Costner congratulated Madonna after one of her shows, calling it neat, a harmless compliment. But moments after he left, the camera caught Madonna mocking him, sticking her finger in her throat as if to gag, and rolling her eyes. For Costner, who had approached her in good faith, it was a moment of quiet betrayal. Years later, he admitted that the incident didn't feel good, and that it revealed a side of fame he wanted no part of, the part where respect and kindness were seen as weaknesses. Though Madonna publicly apologized years later, those close to Costner say he never forgot the moment. It wasn't about insult, it was about respect. So when he thinks of those who won't be invited to his final farewell, the name Madonna still carries that shadow of mockery. A reminder that Hollywood can be cruel even to the kind. 2. Sean Penn, the clash of egos. Kevin Costner and Sean Penn once seemed like reflections of each other. 2 brooding, talented actors who took their craft seriously and weren't afraid of confrontation. But behind the scenes, their personalities were too similar, too intense, too uncompromising. Their tension reportedly began on the set of The Gunman Years, after both had earned reputations for being difficult but brilliant. Sources close to both say their first real conflict came from political differences, Penn's activism and blunt opinions versus Costner's quieter, more traditional outlook. According to one producer, they respected each other's work, but they couldn't share a room without friction. The rivalry wasn't loud, it was silent, cold, professional distance. Costner, known for his calm and deliberate demeanor, disliked the aggression Penn brought into every project. "Life's too short for energy like that," one friend recalled Costner saying. In time, the divide grew into permanent disinterest. Costner never attacked Penn publicly, but he never mentioned him either, an absence that spoke volumes. If Costner's funeral represents peace, humility, and authenticity, Sean Penn represents the opposite, the chaos and arrogance that Hollywood too often rewards. For that reason alone, Penn's name would never make the guest list. 3. Whitney Houston's estate, a painful legacy. Few Hollywood friendships were as touching or as complicated as Kevin Costner's bond with Whitney Houston. Their connection during The Bodyguard was real. Costner personally chose her for the role, believing in her long before the studio did. He guided her through her first major film role, protecting her from critics and celebrating her talent. When Houston died in 2012, Costner delivered one of the most heartfelt eulogies ever spoken at a celebrity funeral. His words broke hearts. His voice cracked as he called her our sweet miracle, reminding the world that she wasn't a product but a person. But after the funeral, things changed. Costner's quiet relationship with Houston's family reportedly deteriorated over time. Sources from both camps describe misunderstandings over how Whitney's legacy was being managed, from biopics to tribute performances. Costner, a man who valued authenticity, was said to be disappointed by how her memory was commercialized. Though he never said so publicly, Insiders claim Costner distanced himself entirely from the estate, believing that the Whitney he knew, the soulful, vulnerable woman, was gone, replaced by a brand. And so, while his love for Whitney remains eternal, his disappointment in how her story was handled ensures that no representatives of her estate would ever be welcome at his own. It's not rejection, it's grief preserved in silence. 4. Taylor Sheridan, The Yellowstone Fallout. For years, Yellowstone symbolized Kevin Costner's grand return to relevance. It wasn't just a show, it was a cultural event, reviving the myth of the American cowboy through Costner's commanding portrayal of John Dutton. But behind the scenes, tension grew between Costner and the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan. At first, they admired each other's artistry. Sheridan called Costner the soul of the show. But success has a way of changing the air around people. As Yellowstone's popularity soared, Sheridan took on more projects, and Costner began feeling sidelined. Reports of scheduling disputes, script disagreements, and ego clashes filled the tabloids. Some say Costner wanted to focus on his dream project, Horizon, while Sheridan accused him of not being committed enough. Others say Sheridan's growing control of the franchise left Costner feeling disrespected. In the end, Yellowstone ended not with a farewell hug, but with silence. To Costner, the show became another Hollywood lesson. Loyalty in this town lasts only as long as ratings do. For a man who values trust over fame, the betrayal was deep. So, when Costner's time comes, Taylor Sheridan's name will not be among those paying tribute. Their creative paths began with mutual admiration and ended with mutual disappointment. 5. Robert Duvall, A Broken Brotherhood. In Hollywood, few actors carry the gravitas of Robert Duvall, and few men have clashed with him more quietly than Kevin Costner. They worked together on Open Range, 2003, a Western that Costner directed and starred in alongside Duvall. For audiences, their chemistry was undeniable, 2 generations of cowboy legends sharing the screen. But behind the camera, things weren't as calm. Duvall reportedly felt sidelined by Costner's dual role as director and star. Costner, in turn, found Duvall's old-school intensity difficult to navigate. Despite their professional respect, creative tension brewed. Duvall was a perfectionist, Costner was methodical but visionary. They disagreed on pacing, tone, and even lines. The tension never exploded into open conflict, but after filming, they rarely spoke again. Years later, when asked about Duvall, Costner simply said, "He's one of the greats." Nothing more, nothing less. It was the kind of restrained response that said everything. If his funeral is meant to honor peace, there would be no room for old professional resentments. Duvall, a man he once called brother, represents a collaboration that turned cold, and one Costner quietly closed the door on long ago. 6. Christine Baumgartner, The Divorce That Shook Him. Of all the names on this list, this one cuts the deepest. For nearly 20 years, Christine Baumgartner was Kevin Costner's wife, partner, and confidant. Their marriage survived the challenges of fame, distance, and family. Together, they raised 3 children and built a private world far from Hollywood's chaos. But in 2023, that world collapsed. Baumgartner filed for divorce unexpectedly, citing irreconcilable differences. Costner was reportedly blindsided, still in production, still believing the marriage was intact. What followed was one of the most public and painful celebrity divorces in years. Court documents, child support disputes, and tabloid leaks painted a bitter picture. Costner's friends said he felt betrayed, not just by the breakup, but by how public it became. A man who had always kept his private life sacred suddenly found his heartbreak turned into headlines. For Costner, forgiveness may come in time, but forgetting never. And so, as those close to him quietly share, he has made it clear. His farewell will be for those who stood by him, not those who turned his personal life into spectacle. Christine Baumgartner will not be there, not out of vengeance, but because his final chapter will be written in peace, not pain. It's easy to look at a list like this and see bitterness. But those who know Kevin Costner best say it's not hate that drives these exclusions, it's boundaries. Throughout his career, Costner has always stood for something Hollywood often forgets: dignity. Whether fighting studio pressure during Dances with Wolves, enduring criticism for Waterworld, or reinventing himself with Yellowstone, he's always followed his own compass. And sometimes that compass points away from people who betrayed his trust. To Costner, a funeral isn't about fame. It's about peace. It's about surrounding yourself, even in death, with people who respected your values, your principles, and your heart. Every name missing from that guest list represents a lesson. That respect matters more than applause. That fame fades, but integrity endures. And that even in a world as false as Hollywood, authenticity is still sacred.